Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Falcons Central Radio Show on the Pro Football Central Radio Network. My name is Aaron Freeman. I'm the founder of FalFans.com. I'm joined by my co-host Scott Karasik, who is a writer for Pro Football Spot. We are back again to talk about the Atlanta Falcons. Our main topic this week will be discussing the Falcons' Week 2 preseason loss to the New York Jets, but we got some other house cleaning items that we need to get to. We've heard an update on Julio Jones's contract situation. The Falcons brought in a free agent quarterback to work out yet. As of this recording, we don't know if they're going to sign him or not, but we'll talk about what he brings to the table. We got some updates on some injury issues and how that is going to affect their Week 3 preseason game against the Miami Dolphins. The Falcons cut a rookie second-year linebacker. We'll talk about that. And as usual, we will answer your mailbag questions at the end of the show. So, Scott, let's talk, I guess, briefly about Julio Jones. I don't know anything else.
Were you watching the Demi Lovato music video?
No.
That's what you posted?
Is that what I posted?
What you posted.
That's what you gave me.
That's not what I gave you.
I copied what you gave me.
I swear that's not what I gave you.
Oh.
All right, well, here you go. It's fixed.
Oh, man, that's crazy.
Thanks to Charles McDonald and Nick Franzo for pointing that out.
Wow. Okay, that's embarrassing. That's the link you gave me, so.
No, it's not.
That's, okay, all right. I'm gonna take a screen cap of what the link I'm looking at. But anyway, Scott, let's talk about
Julio Jones
contract. So we heard a couple of days ago that there's what was this? The words is significantly stalled from Chris Mortensen. So what's your take on the possibility that, it may be not only just a couple of weeks till Julio signs, but maybe a couple of months?
It'll get done before this contract ends. I'm not worried about it.
Okay.
It'll get done. Like, I understand everybody's so all freaking out. Like, Atlanta's not going to have Julio Jones for the 2016 season or the 2017 season or until he retires. Come on now.
Yeah, you're right. I was worried about it a couple of weeks ago, but now I'm like, yeah, it's going to get done. So if gets done in the next 2-3 weeks before the regular season starts, great. If it gets done in January or February, then great. Then it's going to get done eventually. So I'm not too worried about it.
You know what Arthur Blank was saying before Matt Ryan signed his contract, or just using comparison between what he said before Matt Ryan signed his contract and between what he said, Roddy White signing a contract and, I don't know, Sean Weatherspoon signing a contract. Hell, even Antone Smith, he said, we're going to keep Antone here for a while. He said, we're going to keep Roddy here through his career. We're going to keep Matt Ryan here for a long time. Saying the same things about Julio Jones. What do you say about Sean? Oh, I like Sean. That was it. So it's not like they're going to let him walk. I'll put it that way.
Okay. All right. Well, we got that out of the way. I guess the next time we talk about the Julio Jones contract, it'll be after it's been signed. So I'm still laughing about that link. But anyway, the Falcons brought in Rex Grossman to work out today. And there's been no update on whether, as I mentioned before, on the contract being offered to him. But, I guess whatever. I don't know. We'll see if they sign him. So I guess the question I asked Scott is, should the Falcons sign Rex Grossman? Is he an upgrade to the backup quarterback position? Or is he a 35-year-old guy that's, over the hill and can't cut it anymore?
He's Steve DeBerg.
Okay.
That's what He is a smart quarterback who knows the system, who can still make 80% of the throws that he used to, but that's still about 30% more of the throws that he needs to make than, I don't know, TJ Yates or Sean Renfree. He's better than either of those guys.
Yeah. I think the thing with I think we can say unequivocally that he's better than TJ Yates. I think the question is he better than Sean Renfree? And I think you can make a case for Sean Renfree. I think Sean Renfree knows how to manage a game. He hasn't really made any mental mistakes at all, not only this year, but going into last preseason. So, but the question is, do you think the Falcons are good enough with the talent around them that in the event that Matt Ryan misses time, all they really need to do is have a game manager, with Renfree checking the ball down and whatnot. So it's basically, do they have a good enough defense? Do they have a good enough running game? Obviously, they have a couple of pretty good receivers. Can the offensive line keep Renfree upright and all that type of stuff? And I guess time will only tell, but if you can have a guy like Grossman who is not afraid to throw the ball down the field, so that if he's in the game, at least that sort of big play ability is there, you can probably make the argument that Grossman is like 10 times likelier to throw an interception than Renfree is. But, if that's it, the Falcons basically just have to decide whether or not they want a guy who can make a couple of big throws and plays to win a game, or they just want a guy who's not going to lose the game. And that's the difference between Grossman and Renfree, I think. But I will say I am a big fan of Rex Grossman just because of his willingness to just chuck it deep whenever he feels like it. I'm a big fan of deep ball. Big fan of the Bruce Arians style offense. I think Rex and Bruce would be perfect for each other, but obviously that's not the situation in Atlanta. But if Grossman's on the team, I'd be content with him over TJ Yates, because it doesn't seem like the team is quite ready to give up on TJ Yates yet. So we'll see.
They should be.
Yeah, probably. It was a nice move last summer to try to get a better option than Dominique Davis, but it's pretty clear that it's not going to work long term. So, all right, moving on. We'll talk about this roster move before we get into some of the injury updates. Marcus Sproul, the Falcons' 2014 fifth-round pick, was cut a few days ago. I can't remember exactly what day it was. I guess, that's one more guy from that 2014 draft class. Already lost Yalwin Smallwood, already lost Prince Shimbo. Seems like Desmond Southward's not, long for the Falcons roster either. I'm probably forgetting somebody else that we already cut. But it's one of those things where that 2014 class, particularly, after the first two rounds and Ricardo Allen and Devontae Freeman, doesn't look like many of those guys may make it to the Falcons roster on opening day this year. So I guess, Scott, what's your take on the Falcons cutting Sproul, and does it make you reassess the 2014 draft class?
I think when they cut Shembo and Sproul and Smallwood, I was like, yeah, those guys are going to be long-term backup linebackers. And their only one who's made it out of that entire group is Tyler Starr. And he may not even make it out of that group. So that Atlanta draft was bad, man. That 14 draft, after Matthews, Hageman, and Freeman and Allen, like outside of those four guys, you got a lot of just crap. Like, yeah, you might have four starters, but it's a Ricky Bobby draft. You're either first or you're off the roster. You're first on the depth chart or you are last. That's what it is.
Pretty much.
Matthews is starting, Hageman starting, Southwood's probably getting cut. Freeman starting, Shembo cut, Allen starting, Sproul cut, Smallwood cut, Tyler Starr probably cut and on the practice squad. Fucking Ricky Bobby draft.
There you go. Yeah, couldn't say it any different. Yeah, with Sproul getting cut, it wasn't a surprise to me. I remember when we talked about the linebacker position in our summer preview, I kind of said I thought then that he was kind of a body. It's just one of those things where I think Sproul could have done something. But to me, he was the sort of prospect that his only real asset, his only real thing that you said, oh, that skill translates to the NFL was speed. Other than that, he didn't bring anything particular that you said, oh, that's going to translate to the next level. And then, what do people say when a guy tears his ACL? Oh, he lost a step. So it's not. I don't necessarily know that Sproul, suddenly became slow or anything. But if the one skill set you have is speed, and then you get hurt and it affects your speed, then what do you really have? So it's not surprising to me that Dan Quinn and his staff decided to move on from Marcus Sproul. Hopefully he'll catch on with another team and be able to be that sort of special teams guy that I think I personally, and I'm pretty sure, Scott, you also thought he was always going to be. I think that's really ultimately his value.
I definitely thought he would be a lot better than he was.
Okay. All right, so let's talk about the Falcons injury updates. We got some updates. The Falcons had practice today. Desmond Trufant returned to practice from a shoulder injury on a limited basis. Rashid Hageman returned to practice from his concussion that caused him to miss the last game. I guess the question is, do you think they will play against the Dolphins, and do you think they should play against the Dolphins?
I don't think they should play, but I think they will play, at least for a series, if they're ready to go. Just to be like, hey, this is the scheme. Make sure you're used to it. If you're good, you're good.
Yeah. I think I don't necessarily expect Trufant to play. I don't think he necessarily needs to play. He doesn't really have anything he needs to prove. Hageman, get him a series or two. He's still young. He's still developing. Every rep helps with his game. It's not as if he's a super polished product like Trufant is. So if he can get on the field, and concussion is not to say that it's not an issue that can't recur, but I'm not as worried about him getting concussed in a game as I am if Trufant, is trying to make a tackle and is leading with the shoulder like he's supposed to, and whatever, that could end up aggravating that injury. So I'd wait to see Trufant week 1, Hageman if he can get in this week or next week, even if it's for a series, and that'll be great. But they don't need to play. All right. So the other updates from today's practice is a couple of players just out with injuries. A couple of guys like Derek Akune, Evan Royster were injured against the Jets. Players that were injured prior to the Jets game, like Anton Smith and William Moore and Roddy White, did not practice as well. We've basically heard Roddy White had surgery earlier this week. He's basically not going to play this week, and we know he's not going to play against the Ravens. So he's pretty much not going to play this preseason at all. Or he played the week 1 against Titans, but he played I think 8 snaps or something like that. So pretty much his preseason was a wash for Roddy White. Obviously, William Moore, there's no reason for the Falcons to rush him back given his injury history. But looking at these other 3 guys, I think we've talked about Anton, and I think we both agree that he's pretty much a lock to make the roster. But a guy like Akune, who I think is a guy that was on the rise and potentially could sneak onto the roster with his play, do you think, first of all, do you agree? And do you think this injury is going to affect his ability to land on a roster or the practice squad?
I mean, Acuna might make the roster, but I never had him making it in the first place. I think he'll make the practice squad just fine. And they can designate him as a wave injured part of the practice squad. So it won't hurt his chances there. Might hurt his chances as a roster, but that's whatever.
Okay.
I didn't think he was making it.
Okay. Well, I thought he was a player that was his arrow was pointing up. I thought he had done some good things in the first 2 preseason games. I think the injury more is a setback, a momentum shift to that. Obviously, I wouldn't say, if the cuts were being made today, I don't think he would have made it. But if he was able to play another good game against the Dolphins, and especially that last game against the Ravens, where he's probably going to, he would probably play 3 quarters in that game, then I thought he had a decent shot of making it. But if he can't play this week, then that's a setback for his chances. So let's talk a little bit about Roddy White. What are your thoughts on his injury? Is this a big deal? Not a big deal? Is it 2013 all over again? No,
it's not 2013 because they've got competent players who are way better than what your boy Harry Douglas was. They've got Justin Hardy. They've got Leonard Hankerson, who's like surprisingly good. They've got Devin Hester, who can run the deep ball. Roddy can't even run the deep ball anymore. So it's not as big of a deal. It's not anywhere close to as big of a deal.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I would like to know that Roddy still has something left in the tank, and obviously we won't have that opportunity to find out until week 1, but I'm not going to lose any sleep over it. Let's talk about the running back situation. Devontae Freeman and Tevin Coleman, or game time decisions against the Jets, and the Falcons opted not to play them last week. Do we have to see them play this week, or is it a situation where they could be like Roddy and basically the Falcons' top 2 running backs are completely untested going into the regular season?
I mean, let them keep fighting through the season. If their battle ends up giving the Falcons a shot at winning, let them win. Let them battle. Let them each get 10 carries a game, and whoever gets more yardage wins. If one's getting 50 and one's getting 60, who cares? But I don't know if that's going to happen if they can't get on the damn field. We don't have to see him today. We do have to see him in the 4th game if we don't see him today. We need to at least see him in the scheme.
Okay. Yeah, I'm kind of getting a little tired of Teron Ward and Michael Ford and all those guys. I want to see somebody else get the carry, So I would really like to see Freeman and Coleman play this week against a good defense, see what they can do. But I agree with you. I think they have to get on the field at some point before week 1. It's not to say that I doubt their abilities, but, they haven't really proven it yet. And so it's a little concerning given how badly our running game has been, largely because of the offensive line play. And the hope is kind of hoping that because we'll get better running back play as we get closer to the season and into the season, that will help out. But if these guys can't get on the field, then we don't know if that's true. So it's a little bit of an issue, but not quite panic mode yet, I guess. Okay, Scott, let's talk about this Falcons game against the Jets. So obviously the Falcons started very strongly, got up to a 14-0 lead, then basically gave up 30 points, largely thanks to some turnovers. I think the Jets got 10 points off of turnovers. And they ended up losing 30-22. So I guess what are your big takeaways from the game, and which players stood out and which players didn't, in your opinion?
It was the second straight week that I saw a first team stay in for the second quarter going against the Falcons' second team and people acting like it actually mattered. The only Falcons that I saw that were really like true first teamers playing in the second quarter on offense were the offensive line, because they were trying to get some more gel in that unit, more of a gel to that unit, which I can understand that. But come on. How are you going to have – okay, the James Stone sack was bad because he screwed up. There's no miscommunication there. He screwed up. He either had a mental mistake or he didn't know what his blocking assignment was in the first place. But he screwed up. He should have blocked Leonard Williams. And when he tried to block Leonard Williams, he got cross-chopped out of the way. He got destroyed. He had no business. Leonard Williams shouldn't have made that sack on the safety. Not at all. That was just horrible execution by Stone in a basic blocking scheme. That's unacceptable. Yeah, that's my first thought on that game. And Stone, that wasn't the only time he did it all game. Ryan got the ball out quickly on all 5 of his passes. And if Jerome Smith hadn't have fumbled, he'd be the only running back we're talking about, too. Teron Ward has no vision whatsoever. I don't understand how he's going to make the roster. Outside of injury, he has no business making the roster. Michael Ford got stopped for like a 13, 14-yard loss on one play, which made no sense because it was a toss behind the line, and then they didn't blow the whistle after forward progress was stopped. Just a dumb play there. But overall, the team is just the third string sucks. Just awful. The good news is they're all going to get cut. All 27 guys on that third string are going to get cut. There's like 2 guys worth keeping, and one of them is Pierce Burton, who, in my opinion, has earned the spot over Tyler Columbus, but might still get cut because Atlanta's going to go, yeah, we can stash him on the practice squad. And then Jake Rogers. I think Jake Rogers should be the swing tackle.
Okay. Well, first point, I do think when you say a player doesn't know who he's supposed to block, I think that is the basic definition of a miscommunication. Second point, I think my big takeaways from the Jets game are, at least in the positive sense, I saw 2 things in that game that it's been a long time since I've seen in Atlanta. And when I have seen it, it's been very sporadic. And that was an offense that got some big plays and scored because they got some big plays, and a defense that had a pass rush. Obviously, the Colin Mooney 60-yard pass set up the first score. Then Devin Hester had a 60-yard punt return that set up the second one. And we got pressure on Ryan Fitzpatrick the entire game. Our nickel subset, all those guys look good. All those guys got pressure. And it's something our good friend Tom Melton has been saying for years. It's a good thing when Jonathan Babineau is like the 3rd or 4th best pass rusher on your defensive line. That's usually a sign that you have a pretty good defensive line. But unfortunately, like the last couple of years, he's been the best pass rusher they've had. And that's usually a sign that you don't have a good defensive line. And so we saw Beasley get some pressure. We saw Beasley use some power, which I rarely saw him use at Clemson. Adrian Claiborne, to me, was sort of an average defensive end. It's one of the reasons why I wasn't very high on him going into this summer. But I think when you move him inside, where his speed and quickness is much more of an asset against big, fat, slow guards like James Carpenter, he's very good at what he can do. Brian Schofield was pretty quiet against the Titans, but he was kicking Bruno Giacomini's butt against the Jets. And Giacomini isn't exactly world-class right tackle, but he's a competent right tackle.
He's an NFL average.
Yeah, you wouldn't be, the Falcons have definitely put some right tackles on the field that are a lot worse than Bruno Giacomini the last couple of years. So it's
not horrible at right tackle for the Titans. He just was shitty at left tackle because the dude is right-handed and doesn't understand how to move to his left.
I would agree with that. Now he's playing left guard because So we'll see how that works. But yeah, it's one of those things. I think those were the main things with the starters, and the usual, pretty similar to what Scott said about the backups. This isn't anything new in Atlanta. This has basically been the situation since, at least since I can remember, like 7, 8 years, where basically the minute the backups get on the field, the game is pretty much going to swing in the other team's favor. And so you just, that's what it was. I don't think it helped that the offense could not move the ball at all. I think they didn't have any first downs outside of those that first drive until like the third quarter or something like that, something ridiculous. And it didn't help because they were alternating quarterback series. I get why the team does it, because they want both guys to get reps with the starters, and they want somebody to sort of take the job. But it really kind of puts your quarterbacks in a bad situation, because they can't really get into a rhythm. They get like one pass and then they're not playing for, 20 minutes of the game. And so it's just like, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So hopefully the Falcons stop doing that. And we'll probably see better offensive output from the backups. But yeah, the backups aren't very good, but I don't think that's a revelation. That's been the norm in Atlanta for many, many years. So I'm not looking forward to that Ravens game, because I think the Ravens backups are going to beat the crap out of us.
Yeah, but that happens every year.
Pretty much.
It just, when it's the whole game, it'll be fun to watch our backups struggle.
So let's talk a little bit about, a lot of buzz from Nick Williams this week. People were really excited about a couple of catches he made in that game. What are your thoughts on Nick Williams?
He's going to make some random UConn fan so happy, but he's still going to get cut.
Okay. All right.
And he's going to wind up getting signed by, like, the Patriots, and he'll be, like, their fourth best receiver because the Patriots receivers are garbage. But still, he's not good. Yeah, he can run these little underneath routes, and he looks solid, but, I mean, he's not good.
Okay.
Let's put it this way. He's Atlanta's seventh best receiver, behind Eric Weems and Justin Hardy and Devin Hester and Leonard Hankerson. Don't get me wrong. Atlanta's strength at receiver is ridiculous right now, but Nick Williams is not good. He looks good going against third stringers because he'd be an average NFL second stringer. But that's still not a starting caliber receiver or even a slot receiver that should start on anybody's team.
Okay. All right. Follow up. What did you think of what very little action Robert Alford got in the slot? Do you think he's the permanent fix there, permanent solution there?
I think long-term, yeah. I like Alford in the slot. I like the concept of Alford in the slot, especially if Collins starts balling out on the edge. Because if Collins can play right corner perfectly and come in on third downs early in his career as the third cornerback and play that right corner on third downs, I'd rather have Alford in the slot going against the fast receivers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think it's basically either Alford or Kevin White. And I think Kevin White can do it, but I can understand why the coaching staff may not be 100% confident that he'll be able to pick it up right away. So we'll see how that goes.
And I still think they need to move Desmond Howard back to safety, because there is no backup free safety on this roster that's worth a shit.
I do think the guys played a little bit better than they did week one, but I'm not going to sit here and say that means we're good at safety. I'm still worried, but I'm willing to give them a little bit more time to prove it. I thought Thurisi did a good job, even though I do think he's a better fit as a strong safety in the scheme, but I thought he did a better job this week than against the Titans.
Sean Baker doesn't have the range that Threezy has. Threezy doesn't have the instincts that Sean Baker has. You combine them, you've got a complete backup safety. Between the two of them, you've got nothing. So I think Atlanta's either going to sign a safety or they should just move back Desmond Southward to free safety. I'm not saying start him at free safety. I'm saying put him as a backup because at least he's got a lot more range than Threezy does. You know he's a good special teams player, so he at least gives you some sort of value there. And then you just have to worry about him learning the position, which is stand in the back and let the ball come to you.
I know a week ago I said I think Southwood's probably better than these guys, but after the Jets game, I think Threezy's better. I think Baker's better. I think Charles Godfrey's better. I think Jonathan Mincy's better. I think Southwood is probably
because he was playing corner. He's not a corner.
I don't think he's a good safety either, though. Like he was completely lost in basic zone coverages last year. Like he didn't understand the basic concept as a safety that you're not supposed to cover grass. Like I understand when a defensive end drops in the zone, he doesn't know what he's doing because he's basically rushing the quarterback 90% of the time. But when you're a safety and all you did at Wisconsin for 3 years was play zone coverage, and then you get into the NFL and you're just like standing in the middle of the field not doing anything because you have no clue what you're doing, that does not make you a good safety. That to me, that's when I basically it's like, okay, he's done. Like you can't do that. Like that makes no sense to me.
I still feel with this coaching staff, he'd be better. With Raheem Morris, he'd be better. Because he even showed some improvement at cornerback. He's just not a freaking cornerback. He shouldn't play cornerback, period. End of story. But I do think he gets cut, so it's kind of pointless to worry about. And I think they end up signing a random free safety that gets cut from somebody who has some sort of potential more.
Probably.
Like Jonathan Meeks from Buffalo or maybe even Nate Ebner from the Pats or Darrell Eskridge from the Jets who looked pretty solid. Let's see. Who else is out there? Jordan Poyer from the Browns. Hell, if Gerard Holloman gets cut, he's at least got the instincts to make an impact should someone go down. My boy Greg's guy, Winston Guy. Let's see who else. Safety is such a weak position in the NFL. Holy crap. Just trying to see if there's anything out there that's third string right now. Kenny Phillips, maybe? But even then, I don't know why he would be available. Or if Chris Clemens gets cut by the Cardinals. There you go. There's your guy. There's your backup free safety.
Okay. That was the one guy that I was like, okay, I can go with that. All right. So, Scott, anything you're looking forward to seeing in this Falcons-Dolphins game? Are you looking forward to seeing Ndamukong Suh and Cameron Wake destroy Matt Ryan?
I don't want to see that.
Okay. Just checking.
If they play on the left side, or basically the Falcons' offensive line's right side, I don't think they will. I think Chester and Schrader have looked really good the last couple weeks. They're the two guys I'm not worried about on the entire line. Matthews has looked pretty good too, though, and I think he'd lock up Vernon pretty easily. And then I'm worried about Earl Mitchell going against that horrible pass defender, James Stone. He's rough, man. He is rough.
I think you're being a little hard on James Stone, but we'll see. Obviously, we'll see.
The issue isn't his size or his speed or even running. Like when it's run blocking, he is probably the best run blocker on the entire line in this zone scheme. Like, not by far, but probably the best guy there. And he's got good chemistry with Matthews and Hawley on the left side. That's why he's playing with the starters. It's because he's a great run blocker and he's got good chemistry on that left side. The Falcons' issue with their running game the last 2 weeks hasn't been the line because the holes are there. It's been that the back sucks and has no vision in Teron Ward. I've never seen a running back with less vision in a zone scheme outside of like TJ Duckett. Just a complete mismatch for the scheme.
Okay.
But he can't pass block. He has no idea what he's doing. And there's a lot of times where his goal in pass blocking is push the guy over to Hawley. And they know Chester's going to take care of his guy.
Okay. I don't quite agree, but I'm willing to move on. So do you think Vic Beasley is going to have a big game against Brandon Albert?
Yeah, because Albert's still showing effects of his ACL injury.
Okay. Yeah.
And Tannehill can't read Tannehill can't read a pass rush.
Okay.
Never been able to.
All right. Scott, you ready to answer some mailbag questions? We got a bunch.
Yeah, let's go.
All right. Starting us up is ASUP37. He says, Are you as worried as I am for our offensive line going against Miami's front four this weekend?
If it was a real game and they had to go 4 quarters against them, I'd be scared shitless because they only have to go about a half, not so much. And it's preseason, so I don't see Sue or Wake going full speed.
I'm a little worried. Chester, I think, has done a decent job this summer, but historically speaking, whenever he faces a good defensive tackle, they usually destroy him. And Ndamukong Suh is a pretty good defensive tackle, so I'm a little worried about that. I'm hoping Schrader will play well against Wake. I remember last summer Jake started that game against Miami and played fairly well against Wake for like the 2 series that they saw each other. So I'm hoping Schrader, will learn some tricks from Jake and handle himself. Because I think Schrader played well last year, but I'm not 100% sold that he's going to pick up, and play as well as he did a year ago. I think he can, but I want to see it first. So we'll see how that goes. All right. We got a bunch from Evan Birchfield. His first one is any matchups in the Atlanta-Miami game that you want to see?
Trufant come back and go up against Jarvis Landry. Because I think Jarvis Landry is a very underrated wide receiver.
Okay. I'm trying to think of any, and there's not any that particularly, obviously I want to see if our offensive line can hold out, but there isn't any one thing, because I think Miami's just kind of a solid all-around team. I don't think they have any true standout players on offense that you would say are matchup nightmares, in my opinion. They have some good players, don't get me wrong, but nobody that would be like, oh, I want to see how this guy handles this guy. So, no, I guess the answer is no, I don't have any matchups I want to see. I just want to see the Falcons play well, I guess. All right, Evan has a next question. Who should be our starting fullback from what you've seen so far?
That's tough. I'm at a point where I'd rather see 2 fullbacks than 4 running backs. Like 2 fullbacks, like if it's 3 and 2, then 4 and 1, and just keep both of these guys. I like both of them. I mean, if I had to pick, I'd say DeMarco just because he's still a better blocker, and they can both run and catch the ball out the backfield. But I mean, Mooney last week with that big run. He's a solid blocker. They're both solid blockers, but DeMarco's just a slightly better blocker and a bigger guy and a little bit better athlete. So to me, I say get the guy who's a little bit bigger guy, a little bit better athlete when 2 guys are basically the same.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think they're about the same, so it's kind of a coin flip. Maybe because I've seen DeMarco for 2 years. What I've seen of Mooney when he was with the Titans was okay. So it's not as if he came into Atlanta with a guy that was like, oh, he's really good and he needs an opportunity sort of player. I think they've been about even. So it's really a toss-up. But I guess because I know DeMarco a little bit better, and I agree with you, I think he's got a little bit more upside as a blocker just because he's a little bit bigger. I'd probably choose DeMarco, but, I want to see how it's going to play out these next 2 weeks because I think it's going to be, like the quarterback situation was last summer where it comes down to that final snap of that final game in the preseason against the Ravens before we decide who's our fullback. All right. Speaking of the quarterback situation, Evan Birchfield's next question is Grossman or Renfrey, which at quarterback two?
Well, if you're cutting TJ Yates, let them battle it out for the last 2 games.
Okay.
I'd make my decision after that. Cut TJ Yates, let Grossman and Renfrey battle it out. In that final game, give each one a half, and then whoever wins, wins. Fight to the death quarterback style.
I'll say this. If they sign Rex Grossman and he plays games, I don't think he's going to play well enough to win the job. I think if you're going to sign Rex Grossman, if you're going to go with Rex Grossman, you just go with Rex Grossman. You just go all in on the sex cannon. With Renfrey, because like Renfrey doesn't make mistakes. Like he's not going to make a lot of throws, but he's not going to make any mistakes. And Grossman is definitely going to make mistakes.
That's why he's not going to make mistakes. And he's happy because he's running basically the same scheme they ran at Duke. That's why he looks so good. He's so used to making every single one of these throws, these high percentage, short yardage, 6-yard gainers, that he's in love with the scheme. You can see it on his face. He looks like he's having fun playing football because he knows what it is. He knows exactly where every guy's going to be. And his throws are on point. Of his 4 incompletions, 2 of them were drops. So, yeah. I'm very happy with what I've seen from Renfrey. From Yates, not so much.
But to answer your question, Evan, if it's me, I'm choosing Grossman. But, that's me. Again, I said earlier, I love the deep ball. I love a quarterback that's going to be like, you know what? My receiver has half a step on this guy. I'm throwing it deep. I don't care. And I want to see Julio Jones out there with Rex catching passes on Rex Grossman. It's like, you know what? I'm coming out of the huddle. I'm throwing it deep. That's Rex Grossman for you. So that's the type of quarterback I want to see in this offense. That's not Sean Renfrey. And there's nothing wrong with Sean Renfrey, but he's never going to be that guy. And that's who I would choose. But obviously that can be problematic when you're playing some teams that will be like, okay, you're going to throw it deep. Safety's just going to sit back. I'm going to pick it off every time. But, that's why I don't want to see Grossman get on the field. Just go all in. Just jump head first into the pool with Rex Grossman, and it'll be glorious. All right. We got another one from Evan. He asked, could Leonard Hankerson take over the number 2 wide receiver position?
Oh. Yeah, he could. He's got the talent. He's shown in the preseason that he can run the routes. He knows the scheme. He runs the underneath route that Roddy's going to run all the time, and he ran that perfectly on that touchdown pass. Like, he could not have run that route better on that touchdown pass. His biggest improvement over the past 2 years has been his route running.
Okay. If the question is if Roddy is healthy, could Hankerson leapfrog him and Roddy find himself as the number 3? No. The Falcons would never bench Roddy White, a healthy Roddy White. But if you're saying that, because of other issues and Roddy's sluggish or whatnot, and Hankerson outplays him, and then, I guess the best comparison is if you guys can remember back to 2007, Joe Horn and I think Laurent Robinson were technically the number 2 and number 3 receiver on the depth chart, but Michael Jenkins was Joey Harrington and all those other terrible quarterbacks we had that year's second favorite target. So he was the de facto number 2, but even though technically on the depth chart he was the number 4 guy. So I think that's really sort of the best case scenario for Hankerson. He might be, he might get more targets than Roddy White, but he won't really be the true number 2 in the sense he's going to start games and Roddy's going to come off the bench.
And what was funny about that, Roddy White was listed as the backup to Joe Horn that first week of the season.
Yeah. Good 007.
Loved 07.
Yep. Absolutely. All right. Last one from Evan. He asked if there is a big surprise cut, who do you think it would be?
I'm going to get flack for this, but I'm going to say William Moore.
That would be a surprise.
That's the big surprise cut that would make sense. They like Kamal and his fit. Moore gets injured a little too often, and I could see them just getting frustrated with that and saying, you know what, we're tired of it. Let's just not deal with this anymore and cut him at the last minute. The only thing that makes that sound stupid is they don't have anybody to really replace him after Kamal Ishmael in terms of depth. Like, who do you have after Kamal Ishmael? Sean Baker, Robinson Teresi, Charles Godfrey? Come on, man.
Okay. My surprise cut, I'm going to say Malachi Goodman. I don't think he'll get cut, but that's, the point of a surprise cut. Like if somebody that you'd be like, oh, I didn't expect that to happen, he would probably be it. Just because I think Maponga's coming up. And, I know people disagree with me, but I don't think there's really any discernible difference between him and Cliff Matthews on the field. I know Goodman has much more, is a better athlete, is bigger, has greater length and all that type of stuff, but it doesn't always show up on tape. So he would be the surprise cut.
Have we been watching the same preseason games? Because I feel like Goodman looks like he's in his niche in this scheme, playing that backup strong side defensive end role.
Okay. Yeah, I don't have a problem with what Goodman's doing. The point of this question is who would be a surprise. And I think Goodman, I don't think he's a lock to make the roster. So I think that's why I'm saying it. I don't think he's going to get cut. Let me reiterate. But if there is a big surprise cut, I think he's the guy. Because Cliff Matthews
in that case, I'm going to go with Corey Bierman. I don't think that would be a surprise, though. That would be a surprise because he's been Mr. Untouchable since whatever his stupid show is, hit the air. They haven't cut him because they love the publicity from the show is what people think. But I could see Dan Quinn going, he's slow, he's old, he's not very good, he doesn't really fit what we're trying to do. He can kick rocks.
Okay. I don't think that would be a surprise, though. I think that would be a cheered cut for many people. So,
It would still
all
be a
right.
surprise. That's the whole point of the question.
Okay. Okay. I don't know. Okay. We have different definitions of what's surprise, but okay. All right. Last question is from JDBCS. What exactly is Brooks Reed's role in the defense? Best possible return from a Asamoah trade.
All right.
So two.
Brooks Reed's role, you know what a 3-4 strong side linebacker does, where he stands over the tight end, basically would cover the tight end in a short zone, blitz, or play the run. That's Brooks Reed's role in this scheme. The exact same thing as a 3-4 strong outside linebacker. No difference at all. He went from a 3-4 strong outside linebacker role in Houston to the exact same role here. It's just the other side of the defense looks a little different.
Yeah, he's going to set the edge. He's going to play the run. He'll blitz on rare occasions, and he'll drop into coverage. That's what he'll do. Best possible return on the Asamoah trade, I would say best possible 3rd-round pick and a player. Probably not like a starter caliber player, but a quality backup player. The Bucks got Tim Wright, or the Patriots got Tim Wright and a 4th-round pick for Logan Mankins. So if Logan Mankins like 33 at that trade, I think Asamoah was 27. So, a 6-year difference. You say you bump it up to a 3rd-round pick, and you get a Tim Wright caliber player, a quality backup caliber player at a position of need. So I think that's your best possible return. More realistically, though, right now I would say, maybe someone like Captain Munnerlyn in a 7th-round pick or something like that.
Best possible, Eric Berry straight up.
Okay.
That'd be the best possible. Realistically, something like, let's see, something like Chris Clemens in a 5th would probably be the realistic best possible. Like, hey, we're going to cut this guy. Y'all are going to cut that guy. Because you guys have to deal with all this money, here's a 5th-round pick. And this guy can be a good backup.
Yeah. Pretty much. Yeah. I mean, it's August, so teams don't give up a ton of value in August trades. Like that Vontae Davis trade a couple of years ago where they traded him for a 2nd-round pick is a rare trade. Usually they're conditional late-round picks, a conditional 5th, a conditional 7th. And so a guy like Asamoah, who if we waited till March or something to trade him, we might be able to get something better. But I don't think the Falcons are going to do that. So, yeah, we'll see. Okay, I think that's it for this week's show. Next week, we will be back to talk about the Miami Dolphins. We'll be scraping Matt Ryan up off the turf. Please tweet the show at FalconsPFC. Use the hashtag Falcons mailbag to get your questions onto the show. I am on Twitter at FalcFans. Scott is on Twitter at KarasicPFS. Follow PF Central as well on Twitter. And you got anything else you want to add, Scott, before we duck out of here?
I do. I just created a fantasy football league for people who want to play against me and Aaron in a unique format fantasy football league. So hit me up if you want to join us at Karasik PFS. Say I want in, and then say which division you'd like to join. First come, first serve. Trust me, I won't get my heart broken if you want to take down Aaron. At all. It's an ESPN league, and we'll figure out a draft date, and I'll email it out. But it'll probably be after the 4th preseason game.
Come at me, bros.
Can't take this down.